12 fragrances, actually a lot more than 12, that I would say are the best smelling cheap fragrances you can buy. Now, cheap is a relative term, right? There are cheap niche fragrances that maybe should cost $500 and cost you $100. There are just straight up cheapies, $20 fragrances. And this video actually has a wide range from some that are actually around $20, maybe even a little less, on up to some niche fragrances that you can actually get for the price of a designer or less. And so each one of these, what I am highlighting is they smell way more expensive than they are. They smell way more quality than you expect to get for the price you pay. So we're going to dive into this list of actually, I think it's around 19 fragrances. We're going to go quickly. Before we begin, remember to subscribe to the channel. Also, remember to give a cheap click to the like button, maybe one that's a little more pricey. You make the call. And also let me know down below, what are some of your top recommendations for inexpensive fragrances that really smell way more pricey than they are. All right, we're going to begin with a couple that are in a unique category because these are Fragrance World, which is actually a clone brand, kind of a Middle Eastern, usually dupe brand, but they've released a line that's kind of like their niche line. So this is their highest level perfumery, and they are incredibly, incredibly impressive. The first one I want to mention is very impressive. This one is from Maison de Parfums, which is the brand of Fragrance World I'm talking about. This one is called Inspiro. Inspiro, and this is a plum fragrance. The first couple notes are plum cinnamon. And so I initially thought, oh, is this going to be a plum japonais dupe? It's not. It's not as sweet, fruity, jammy plum as that fragrance is. And so then I thought, well, maybe is it an Initio Paragon dupe? It's definitely not. I would love to actually know what it's inspired by, because the others I've tried from the brand are inspired by something, but this one I just can't quite figure out. But I can tell you, you've got plum, cinnamon, jasmine, patchouli, heliotrope, vanilla, cedarwood, musk, sandalwood, and benzoin. And what you're going to get from that note breakdown is that this is probably going to be dark, sweet, rich. You know, you've got benzoin, you've got vanilla, you've got some sandalwood, you've got some very rich notes, you've got patchouli, but then you've got the sweeter notes, the spicier notes, and of course you've got that plum. It comes across as a sweet but not overly sweet, pretty complex plum and woods and spice kind of a fragrance. It almost has a touch of almost like a honeyed kind of a sweetness, but that patchouli and that cinnamon really do give it kind of a dark, spicy feel. The sandalwood is a woody base, you know, a smooth woody base. It's familiar, but I can't quite place it. It's not Guerlain L'Homme Ideal Extreme. So many of kind of the fragrances in this category that would be a go-to, it just doesn't smell like those, but it smells so very good. If you like the sound of those notes, you'll probably love it. Maison de Parfums Inspiro. From the same brand of Fragrance World, this one I do know what it's inspired by. This one is called Mythique, or Mythique for him. And this one is inspired by Nishane 100 Silent Ways. And so this is a vanilla, iris, orris, and other florals kind of a fragrance. If you like something like Dior Homme Intense, or even more so like Valentino Uomo Intense, it is in the style of that kind of a fragrance. It also reminds me a lot of Penhaligon's The Omniscient Mr. Thompson, the one with the elephant as a cap, because it's a sweet, rich vanilla, and then it's got iris. I think it has iris and orris. It's not overly lipsticky, but you definitely do get some of that, and then you get that clean, powdery iris and just the texture of a floral fragrance. I think there's some jasmine in here, but it's got a good bit of that sweet, rich, creamy vanilla. So again, if you like something like Valentino Uomo Intense, this is in the same family, but it doesn't really smell like Valentino Uomo Intense. I love it. I love that original DNA. It's actually been a highly complimented fragrance for me, and I have no doubt this one will be as well. So again, this is Mythique for Him by Maison de Parfums. Now we're going to look at a couple that are just extremely cheap. First up right here, this is still possibly, it's in my top 2 clones of Parfums de Marly Layton. I love this stuff. My bottle is pretty much destroyed because it was low quality to begin with. This is Haramain Detour Noir. You can usually get this for around $20. Now the bottle falls apart. I mean, on mine, the collar is actually busted. I don't even know how the lid still clicks into place. It's ugly, whatever, but the juice is wonderful. Sweet vanilla, rich, kind of aromatic spiciness. You've got some geranium and some other spices. You've got some woods. You've also got apple or some other fruit with that vanilla and spice. It's a beloved fragrance profile. I've got a bunch of clones and I love the DNA. And so again, this is a fantastic one for dirt cheap, Haramain Detour Noir. It's a great starter Layton clone. If you don't have one, this is probably the one to get. Another one from Fragrance World. This was the first Fragrance World fragrance I bought. This is Man Nebula Mugler Pure Malt dupe. Now, I never smelled the original, but those that I have seen who have done a side-by-side comparison, who are very familiar with the original, say it's actually a very good clone. And again, you can get this one usually in that range of $20, maybe $22, maybe even $19 if you catch it on sale or at a good deal. But it's so good. It is a warm, spicy, aromatic, somewhat fruity, somewhat boozy fragrance, perfect for fall, perfect for winter, maybe even the spring if you like a little bit of aromatic spiciness in the spring. But this stuff is so very good. I've worn it a lot, and every time I wear it, I think, man, I need to wear more of that. Again, Man Nebula. They actually have the original Man, which is a dupe of the original Mugler Amen, and I love Amen. I got several clones of it as well, and the original, and there's a touch of that in Man Nebula. Next one, this one's actually from Lattafa. I still think it is a fantastic clone of Nishane Ani, and I have 3 or 4 now, and this one is Nashit by Lattafa. And it's incredible. I remember the first time I smelled it, I was in my car, I got it out of the box and I sprayed it on and I thought, oh, they nailed the opening, because it's this vanilla and I think it's lemon or maybe bergamot. It's vanilla and citrus. It reminds you of a lemon meringue pie whenever you first spray it on. But the original Nishane Ani, the thing that impresses me so much about that one is the way that it develops from vanilla and citrus into vanilla ginger spiciness. And about 30 minutes later, this fragrance blew my socks off whenever this little $20-some dupe did the exact same thing. Developed from that kind of gourmand citrus into a ginger spicy vanilla fragrance. So I still think it's a great dupe. My bottle easily lasts 7 or 8 hours. Whenever it first came out, people complained of performance. I think it probably just needed to macerate, but no complaints with performance on this one for me. Again, Nashit by Lattafa. This is one from Afnan, and this is a wonderful, fresh, blue fragrance with a little bit of some niche sensibilities. This is Afnan Turathi Blue, and it's a Bulgari Tigar clone, and it's basically a blue fragrance, being that, you know, almost aquatic, fresh, very clean feeling fragrance, a little bit of sweetness from some citrus. There's also some woods. But the thing that makes this one different than a lot of blue fragrances is there is an aromatic green and aromatic fresh spicy element to this fragrance. So it's very clearly an aromatic take on a blue fragrance. Not a sweet aromatic like a YEDP or Rocha Salome, but more of a green, fresh, spicy aromatic. So really good stuff. Women actually love this DNA and others like it. Just note there. Turathi Blue by Afnan. Very good performance as well on that one. We're going to shift out of clones and we're going to shift more towards designer, and there's even one very inexpensive niche fragrance in here. We'll start with this one, maybe the cheapest. Well, they're actually all insanely cheap. They're all in the 30s is what you can get these for. This fragrance, I don't know why it doesn't get more love. It's, to me, super impressive. Ferragamo Uomo Casual Life. This whole line is awesome. And this one is remarkable because it is a citrus ozonic fragrance. So you've got violet leaf and you've got some citrus. You've got, I think it's some black pepper in the fragrance, which gives it a very fresh ozonic feel. But then it's also got some of the sweet kind of tiramisu, tonka bean kind of sweetness mixing with that very fresh ozonic citrus. It's one of those fragrance clashes that works really well in some sense. And so I think it's super impressive and dirt cheap usually. Again, Uomo Casual Life. One of my favorite summer fragrances to wear. This one is, I guess you could say it's a dupe, but it's from a car brand. It's definitely inspired by, we'll say that. It's inspired by Dior Fahrenheit, but it's a more palatable take on that DNA. This is Mercedes-Benz Intense, this gigantic bottle. I thought I was buying a 3.7 ounce. It's an 8 ounce bottle, and I got it for like $40. But this fragrance takes that DNA and puts a little twist on it. It's a little sweeter. It's not quite as gasoline heavy, but it still very much has that distinctive Fahrenheit petrol kind of a feel. And anyway, dirt cheap, very close to that DNA, but more mass pleasing, I think. Mercedes-Benz Intense. Next up, from Paco Rabanne, we've got this one that was apparently once thought to be discontinued and selling on eBay for $150 or $200. Now you can get it for in the mid 30s easily. This is Ultrared Man. And this stuff right here is a vanilla, praline, and orange fragrance. You've got this very interesting spray mechanism. And I remember when this one was insanely expensive on eBay. I didn't know about it until, 3-4 years ago, whenever it was very expensive. And I had it on my list and I thought someday I'll pick it up. And then lo and behold, FragranceNet or somebody must have found boxes and boxes of them, because now you can get it for dirt cheap. If you like sweet fragrances, this one is incredible. I mean, it smells wonderful. All right, next, another designer that is very inexpensive, usually less than $40. And this is a sweet iris fragrance. I'm talking about Joop Homme Le Parfum. And so this one actually takes some vanilla and caramel and it adds a particular kind of iris. There's a certain kind of iris that comes across quite fruity. One of the Le Beau fragrances has this kind of an iris. The Dunhill Icon Original has this kind of an iris. It comes across as this bright, invigorating, fruity kind of a feel, but it's actually iris. And then you add to, and it's a powerful dose of iris. And then you add to it some vanilla and some caramel, and there's some other fragrance notes as well. But what I'm saying is it's a very sweet fragrance. It's a loud, powerful, long-lasting fragrance, and very inexpensive. Joop Homme Le Parfum. Last up, the reason I told you there's way more than 12 in this is because the last thing I want to show you is actually a collection of fragrances you can get for the price of one fragrance. I'm talking about Dumont's Nitro Pour Homme collection. And so this is a collection of 8 fragrances. It's the entire Nitro line, which I think are some of the best budget-friendly fragrances you can buy. There's a mix of Nitro Red, which, it's sort of a BR 540 and Invictus mix. There's Nitro White, which is, in the family of almost something like Parfums de Marly Layton. You've got Nitro Green, which is a Ultramall twist. You've got Nitro Blue, which is a Parfums de Marly Pegasus twist. You've got Black and Intense, which are twists on Creed Aventus. And then you've got, I think, Platinum, which is a kind of a gourmand take on Lattafa Nashit al Farsan. And so anyway, here is the collection, and inside you have these little 10 ml spray bottles and a very cool magnetic cap holder that you can place the bottles in. It actually works very well. There's a couple of these that I gave away that I don't own anymore, and so I've actually been using this with a couple of them. Oh, Nitro Homme is also in here, which is a modern barbershop fragrance. This smells amazing. So anyway, I'll have links to these in the description, and so go and check them out, and remember to let me know down below what are some of your top picks for the best smelling cheap fragrances. Remember to give the best smelling cheap click to the like button you possibly can, and subscribe to the channel. I'm Justin, this is Sillage Scents.